So in the 80s and in the 90s and in the early 2000s and the 2010s, we had dynasties. It could be the Pistons, or it could be the Celtics with Larry Bird and additional pieces. It could be MJ. It could be the Spurs with Tim Duncan, Kobe and Shaq Lakers. There was the Magic, Kareem Lakers. The Heatles got close to being a dynasty, and then, of course, the Warriors dominated a decade, getting to the finals many times. And those days now are apparently over. Welcome to 2019 and beyond. We will have the sixth NBA champion in 6 years. Now, I think the NBA has more talent than it's ever had, especially European talent. A lot of good bigs, but it's spread out throughout the league. What you saw yesterday does not happen much. A defending champ with the best player in the world at home evaporating in the second half. It just doesn't happen. You got the best player. You got a good staff. You're defending champs. Most of us think you have the best team, and they just dried up. Denver, multiple times in this series, just got embarrassed. The first two games of this series, they were pushed around. They lost 3 of 4 at home. And let's be honest, yesterday, offense, third quarter, dried up. The T-Wolves deserve the credit. A lot of this is the construction of the roster. It's really good. 2 bigs, one a defender, one a scorer. A dynamic, emerging superstar on the wing. Good bench, athleticism, length, high IQ veteran point guard. So a guy named Tim Connolly built Denver's roster to a championship level, then took a better gig with Minnesota and very intentionally built a roster to beat the roster he built, to thwart Jokic. And in some instances, he did. The T-Wolves are very intentionally built. When they came in with 2 bigs, one all defense, the other great offense. You know, you start looking from Naz Reid on, they're really built with a purpose. You know, a lot of times you watch NBA teams, Phoenix, and there's just duplication everywhere. There's not here. I do think offensively they probably have to look at getting another dependable, a Pippen to MJ, and somebody beyond him when he has those rare off shooting nights. But the Nuggets now, still a very good team. The game went down to the wire. Game went to 7. But they have to go back to the drawing board. Gordon didn't give them anything offensively. Jamal Murray was very, very good early, not as much late. Jokic needs help. They need a better bench. So they'll be fine, but we have to go back to the drawing board. It tells you how well constructed the T-Wolves are. That Ant really played poorly offensively yesterday, and they still rolled over the champs on the road. That's about roster construction, that Ant doesn't have to. And this was always the key with Jordan's Bulls. Michael, on most nights, was not only the best player, but would hit the big shot. But it was when they got a Paxson or a Kerr or a Kukoc. They got Rodman, who had a specialty. It wasn't just about Pippen. It was Phil Jackson understanding that you need elements to a championship team. And Denver had those last year. But with the emergence of Ant, who is now a better player and an elite defender, Denver did not have enough. So we will have the 6th champ in 6 seasons. The 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s are over. Of the 4 left, Boston, Indiana, Dallas, and Minnesota. I feel like, based on roster construction, Minnesota and Boston play for the championship. Congrats to the T-Wolves. Certainly earned. Denver is not reeling, just beaten by a really smartly constructed team with an emerging superstar. All right, the only people more disappointed than Knick fans that they lost in Game 7 at home to Indiana was ESPN, apparently. But I get it. New York, Boston is what the NBA needed. It felt big. The late John Madden used to say, some games just sound big. You know, Packers, Bears, even if one team isn't great, it sounds big. Knicks, Celtics sounded big, but New York fell apart. I know it's an excuse. Not really. It's sometimes there's an excuse, dog ate my homework, and then sometimes there's a reason, you know, the school bus got into a wreck. I think New York's the better team. They fell apart. Brunson, OG, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, 4 of their top 7 players hurt. But there's also, you got DiVincenzo now, a catch-and-shoot guy. You can't get rid of him. I think the Knicks have a very interesting dilemma. It's a good dilemma to have. They have a culture, and they didn't forever. And I think they have the coach who sets the culture, like he did in Chicago, Tibbs. So that's the good news. They were just a aimless, wandering franchise, reaching on talent, getting stars that weren't committed beyond themselves. The New York Knicks have a culture. And a lot of it is the Villanova guys, led by Jalen Brunson. But they also, tough, gritty, physical, they're not skilled enough. Milwaukee next year is better. Sixers have cap space, they'll be better. Cleveland could make a big deal and get better. The East isn't very good, and the Knicks fell apart, and that is a big reason why they lost. They were a better team, I thought, when healthy. They just fell apart. Once OG goes down early, Brunson, now, is that Tibbs? Is that what they'll be going out? They need depth, and they do need another highly skilled star, but you better get the right one, and that's why it's a delicate balance. For years, the Knicks were impatient. Now they're patient. For years, they had fake stars. Now they have a real one. For years, they could have great nights, but you didn't think there was a great soul or depth to it. Check. They have both. Can they get a Paul George? KD probably fits, but does he emotionally? And that's the challenge for the Knicks, and I think they're up to it because I think they finally got the front office in order. Don't screw with the culture. Don't screw with the toughness. Do not take the ball out of the hands of Jalen Brunson. But you also have to be honest and admit Dame and Giannis both got hurt. Embiid got hurt. Jimmy Butler got hurt. The whole East got hurt. And Boston's going nowhere. At least this year and next year, they'll have a much better roster offensively and defensively. It's a great year. Pacers probably not quite built to beat Boston. Boston played them 5 times this year and averaged 129 points. New York, if healthy, I think could have really challenged the Celtics. Maybe not beaten them, maybe, but they would have challenged them. I don't think Indiana can. But the key to the Knicks here, get a star, don't screw with the culture. It's going to take patience and thought and self-awareness. Listen, talent, skill eventually get you titles. But Heat culture has gotten you to finals when you probably didn't have the skill. So the Warriors had a culture. The Heat have had it with Spoelstra and Pat Riley forever. One of the stronger cultures in the league. They look and play differently than everybody else is the Knicks. Tweak it, add some skill. But I would take this season, despite that loss, over the last 20, and not just because you got to within a game of the Eastern Conference Finals. What you found and created and built had been missing since Pat Riley coached. Depth, a soul, a style. Like you go home, you're watching Knicks fans do the heart sign on their shirt. This team was impossible not to love. Add another piece, you may love them even more.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.